What up, everybody? And welcome back to the Endzone, brought to you by Gym Bag Entertainment. And I am back. It's your boy Craig, and I'm here to talk football with you for an hour, and hopefully we can get back into the swing of things. I've missed this very much, and to anybody who used to watch my show, I hope that you're glad that I'm back, and I hope that you're going to be listening, watching, and looking forward to new episodes. So here we go. It's been a long time, but I'm back in the building. I'm back in the studio, and I'm ready to bring you the football content that I think you're going to love. Obviously, without, passing over it, it's been a little while now, but we had the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back, reigning champs over the San Francisco 49ers, and that was quite a game, obviously. Kansas City coming out on top, but the San Francisco 49ers not going out without a fight and running that into overtime. It was exciting stuff. The game was a little slow to start. San Fran taking the lead early on, but then the second half, the Chiefs coming back to tie up the game. And, going into overtime, and if San Fran gets that field goal, and Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, they drive it down the field like we all knew that they would, scored a touchdown to take the dub. And outside of mistakes, the dumb small mistakes, this was a pretty exciting game. It was a pretty fun game, and I don't think we could ask for anything more. It was a showdown of, the best team in football versus the best quarterback and the best coach in football, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They got the job done. They stepped up when it counted. I mean, if you're like me, I had the Kansas City Chiefs counted out from the moment they made the playoffs. I thought they was going to be one and done, maybe two, but I definitely did not think that they would make it to the bowl game. But for me, Patrick Mahomes has solidified the fact that not only is he the best quarterback in the NFL right now, but he is on his way to make the argument between him and Brady being the GOAT very, very real. And this is coming from a guy who doesn't want to see Patrick Mahomes succeed, because him succeeding means that he could possibly take away that GOAT status from our guy, Tom Brady. And I don't want that to happen, but you can't deny the greatness. The man had to fight through receivers who could not catch a cold, and he had to put the game on his back. He had to put the team on his back, and he did so, and he brought them to another Super Bowl. And that makes me say that the chances of them going back to the Super Bowl seems almost evident. It seems inevitable. Wrong word. It seems inevitable that the Chiefs will make it back to the bowl game, and who will stop them, who knows at this point. But that's the past. It's time to look forward to the future. Let's start off with just talking about the fact that for those of you like me who just love football and can't get enough of football, the NFL's done, and we ain't going to get no real football until August, right? September's the regular season, preseason, we got that in August. Prior to that, you have training camps and you have the draft and the combine, but, that's not really football. But as a consolation to that, obviously, we know last year we had the XFL. It was okay. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch that much of the XFL. But now the XFL and the USFL have combined together to make the UFL, United Football League. And I know it's not the NFL, but if you're like me and you just want a little, you want scratch that itch, get that little taste of football, let's watch that UFL. And I am going to try and keep you guys updated on what's going on in the UFL, but it's all we have. So let's take what we get and be happy. So with that being said, let's enjoy the UFL for what it is and see what players may come out of there and make it over into the NFL. Not many, if any, have prospered, but who knows? So now let's talk about what we're here to talk about. That's the NFL. And I just want to take a few moments to talk about, the free agency. And this week I'm going to mainly focus on the top offensive weapons that are going to be available this year in free agency. Top of the list for me, personally, is Mike Evans. The man has, 10, 11 seasons? Maybe it might even be 13 seasons. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Hasn't had under 1,000 yards since he came into the league. And to me, that is amazing. Last year, people counted him out because of his age, because of Baker Mayfield. And this was probably one of the better seasons he had. Mike Evans is an ageless wonder. And I think he's going to make a splash in free agency. But where does he go? Some people say Kansas City Chiefs. Some people say Baltimore. But me, I say New England. I'm a New England guy, and what have we been missing? What has New England lacked for so long is that number one guy. We haven't had a number one guy, and I can't even remember the last time we had one. Julian Edelman, you can call it, but he really wasn't a number one. He was just a gritty guy. He moved the chains inside the numbers, not a deep threat. Randy Moss was the last guy that you could really be like, man, we got a guy here. And I think Mike Evans, his work ethic, and the fact that he's a baller, big, tall, get the ball, route running wide receiver, I think he will be a perfect fit, knowing that most likely the Patriots are going to draft one of the top 3 quarterbacks with their number 3 overall pick. So who better to pair him up with but a veteran wide receiver, a guy who's going to go up for the ball and make magic happen. So I like Mike Evans going to New England, but obviously you got to be a little realistic. Mike Evans, he wants the bag. Although our new head coach, Gerard Mayo, said that he's willing to spend the bag this year, and maybe that does go to Mike Evans, but another team that is probably going to look to spend money on wide receivers this year due to the complete and utter failure they had last year, Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers put together the worst set of misfit toys that has ever been assembled. When your number one wide receiver is a 35-year-old man, that's a problem. So you go ahead, you spend the money on a guy like Mike Evans or some of the other guys I have on the list that I'll address later. That is a good start. You got Jonathan Mingo, showed some flashes last year, nothing major. Probably going to move off of DJ Chark, possibly also move on from Adam Thielen. So you're going to need a number one guy. Mike Evans works. But in my opinion, Mike Evans to the New England Patriots makes the most sense. Now, another big name on this list. Some might not put him at the number 2 guy on this list. There's no real order here. It kind of trickles, whatever. But Saquon Barkley, one of the best running back talents the NFL has ever seen. Little trouble with injury, but the man can put the team on his back, can run downhill, he can catch passes, he can do everything. And there's one team in the NFL that if they had a running back like Saquon Barkley, like Jonathan Taylor, like Josh Jacobs, it would have put them over the top this year in the playoffs. But my personal opinion is that this team should go after Saquon Barkley. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud came on the scene, number 2 overall pick, and took the league by storm. Homeboy came in looking like a straight veteran. I don't know about you, but it blew my mind. See, every time you saw C.J. Stroud going off in the beginning of the season, it's like, a little flash in the pan, this, that, and the other thing. Nobody knew what to expect. But no, the boy balled out all season to lead his division and win a playoff game. He's a baller. He's here to stay, and I'm excited to see how this season turns out for him. Tank Dell going to come back, hopefully 100%. Nico Collins looking like a true number 1. If they retain Dalton Schultz, they'll have their tight end. But Devin Singletary, that was a one and done for them. And Dameon Pierce clearly does not work in this system. So you need a star. You need a stud who's going to come in, lead the locker room, and help C.J. Stroud get yards down the field. Can't just throw the ball all day. Saquon Barkley is a perfect fit, in my opinion. So hopefully we see that happen. Next on the list, King Henry. Derrick Henry, downfield runner. Man still got gas left in the tank, 100%. He runs the ball like nobody else in the league, throwing dudes around. And what's a team that has not had a legitimate run game for as long as they've had their franchise quarterback? That's the Baltimore Ravens. Could you imagine Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson sharing a backfield with Keaton Mitchell, the speedster? So you got Derrick Henry for the 1 and the 2. You got Keaton Mitchell, third down back. Derrick Henry on the goal line with the threat of Lamar Jackson. That is exactly what this team needed last year, and they did not make that move. This is the year. Sign Derrick Henry, and I believe that will be the one last piece that will help you get over the hump that is called the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you had the defense. You got the franchise quarterback. Weapons, okay. Zay Flowers, awesome. Odell Beckham, good. Mark Andrews, a dog. Couple little sprinkles of depth with Nelson Aguilar and Rashad Bateman. You put Derrick Henry on this team, and they are unstoppable. That's all I got to say about that. So hopefully that pans out this year. I'm excited for it, and will it happen? I don't know. I'm just an analyst. I don't get to make those decisions. Next on the list, keeping with the running backs, is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, 2 years removed from winning the rushing title. And couple injuries last year held him back, a lackluster team, contract disputes, too much drama, too much burned relationships. It's time to move on. Vegas needs to let him go. Josh Jacobs needs to move on. And there is only one team in my mind that Josh Jacobs could walk into and reinvigorate the run game. Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott last year was a beast. He was playing ball like nobody expected. Give the man his flowers when they're deserved. Like, he did his thing last year. Their offense was electrified. What did it lack? The run game. Tony Pollard is not a lead back. He proved it. 75 attempts in the red zone, 5 touchdowns. That says everything you need to know. Is it happenstance? Is it a fluke? I don't know. But who do I think would come in and turn that backfield around? It's Josh Jacobs. Homeboy's a dog. He comes in and he does his job. He knows how to go north-south. So if it's me, I'm moving on from Tony Pollard, and I'm working out a deal to get Josh Jacobs in that backfield. Jonathan Taylor, another running back with a burnt relationship with his organization. Indianapolis Colts made a huge mistake with the contract disputes with Jonathan Taylor. It's time for both parties to part ways and give Jonathan Taylor the ability to move on. What team could utilize a young, speedy running back who can do it all, play in all 3 phases? Green Bay Packers. Aaron Jones, don't get me wrong, he is one hell of a running back. But his days are a little bit numbered, and he's a little bit past his prime. Jonathan Taylor is in his prime. He's poised for a team that is ready to win now. And that's the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love proved last year he's a franchise quarterback. Once again, I had my doubts. I was not a Jordan Love believer. The man proved it week in and week out. He had a bad start. A decent start, bad little middle of the season, great end. Made it to the playoffs, made it farther than anybody expected. Once again, give that man his flowers. The only thing that team was lacking was an elite run game. They've got nothing but young, hungry receivers and tight ends, but their run game is lacking. Jonathan Taylor brings to the table exactly what this team needs, and I would love to see that happen. It's time to mix things up. It's time to put people in the best position to win. And Jonathan Taylor on the Green Bay Packers gives them and him the best chance to win. So let's see if we can make that happen. Next, for running backs again, you got Tony Pollard, right? So there are obviously many teams that could utilize a running back. A lot of teams need that every down back or the receiving back, whatever the case may be. But Tony Pollard, he needs a new home. And what team is best suited for Tony Pollard but the Minnesota Vikings? The Minnesota Vikings, they don't need a power runner. They need someone who's they love to pass the ball. They are an aerial team. Tony Pollard is a pass-catching running back. Let's marry the two together, and magic will happen. The Minnesota Vikings don't have a run game. You could talk about Ty Chandler. Obviously, we know Alexander Mattison is not him. He's not. Tony Pollard may not be him, but he's better than Mattison, and he's better than Ty Chandler. And he is an option for the Minnesota Vikings that is win now. And I think it's a match made in heaven. My personal opinion. I love this. I love this combination, and I think he fits what they're trying to do there. So Tony Pollard to Minnesota is a win for me. All right, let's talk about a quarterback right now, Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins is probably going to want a little more money than a team like Minnesota is going to be willing to pay. But when you have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, possibly KJ Osborne, you don't need some incredible quarterback, and you don't need Kirk Cousins. You need a game manager, right? So where can Kirk Cousins go that could pay a little money, maybe need a transition quarterback? I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, to be honest with you. He's going to still have the weapons he had. He's going to have an established run game, decent offensive line, which they'll make work of in the draft to shore up, to give him the time he needs. A bunch of guys who need the ball to be delivered but don't have a quarterback to do it. Kirk Cousins delivers the ball. Kirk Cousins is a locker room guy. He can bring a team together that's been broken. Steelers are broken right now. They are not mesh. They're not meshing. There's no synchrony in there. None of that synergy is going on in that locker room. In come Kirk Cousins with that personality, that spark, that baller energy. Kirk Cousins is going to bring that in the locker room. And I think it is just the thing that Pittsburgh Steelers need. You can draft a quarterback, try to bring him up or whatever. That's cool. Do that. Get a second, third round quarterback and see if you can build him up. Maybe next year, whatever the case may be. But right now, Kirk Cousins could come in that locker room and repair all that's broken. 100%, without a doubt. So Kirk Cousins to Pittsburgh, to me, it makes the most sense. Now, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield shocked the world. How he didn't beat out Joe Flacco for comeback player of the year. Person we all know, Damar Hamlin should have been comeback player of the year. Homeboy died and came back to life. That's comeback player of the year for me. But you want to call someone the comeback player of the year, on a guy who didn't even win his first playoff game? Baker did. Baker's a baller, man. I don't know what people are thinking, but Baker is a dog, and he came into Tampa Bay and revitalized himself, found his way back to the love of football, having fun. And I think it only makes sense for Tampa Bay to retain Baker. He's got the chemistry with the team. He knows the offense. I feel like with the coaching staff that they have there, they can keep Baker Mayfield being Baker Mayfield. Is Baker Mayfield going to win him a Super Bowl? Of course not. But Baker Mayfield could win a playoff game. Baker Mayfield can have a winning record. And for right now, I think that's all you need. You could draft it once again. Draft a quarterback. Develop that quarterback behind Baker Mayfield. And then when that quarterback's ready, trade Baker Mayfield or let him sign somewhere else, whatever the case may be, whatever he wants to do with his career. You got what you needed from him, and now you have a developed rookie, second-year quarterback ready to roll. Let's jump on T. Higgins. T. Higgins might not be a true number one wide receiver, but he's right there on the cusp of it. And there are teams that could utilize T. Higgins right now. First thing that comes to mind is the Carolina Panthers. And yes, I did say they should sign Mike Evans. But that also means they should sign T. Higgins as well. You got Bryce Young, number one pick in the draft. This highly touted prospect coming out of college, you give him nothing. How about repaying that lack of effort into making him a team, to building a team around him by throwing him Mike Evans and T. Higgins? Two guys who are big body wide receivers who will make contested catches and who will help lead this team to a divisional championship. It makes the most sense to me. But not everything that makes sense is what people do. So another team I think makes a lot of sense is the Baltimore Ravens. I said, Baltimore Ravens, they need to get, Derrick Henry. They need that run game. But Zay Flowers, he's still young. He still has some development to do. Odell Beckham is too old. You could have Odell Beckham on your team. And Odell Beckham could be a difference maker. But he's not a number one. Zay Flowers, not a number one. You bring in T. Higgins, who's also, to me, not a number one. But enough twos on your team, and that's star power, that's playoff wins, that's Super Bowl contention. So my favorite landing spot for T. Higgins right now would be the Baltimore Ravens. Next on the list, you have Michael Pittman Jr., who last year balled out of control. 2 years ago, I had this man on my fantasy roster, and he was consistent, double digits every week, but never really too many big splash games. He wasn't going to win you a championship in fantasy, and he wasn't going to take his team to a championship in the NFL. But last year, he proved that he is also him. And it would be the biggest mistake the Colts could make to not re-sign Michael Pittman. Give him his deal, back up the Brinks truck, pay the man his dues, and Anthony Richardson coming back, he's gonna need Michael Pittman in order to deal out that ball. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, that's a match made in heaven. I like it a lot. So I think that's the smartest move to make. But hypothetically speaking, they make the mistake and they don't sign him. The team that makes the most sense in my eyes is the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs did not have a number one. Rashid Rice, he kind of showed something at the end, but he's a yards after the catch guy. He's a short yard catch, make plays with his feet. Kadarius Toney is a bum. Kadarius Toney should be in the UFL, in my opinion. He hasn't done anything ever. So I don't know why people keep hyping this dude up. He had one decent season, and that's it. Homeboy is not the one. It's time to move on. And if the Indianapolis Colts can't see the light, Kansas City needs to swoop in and snatch themselves a little slice of Michael Pittman pie. Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is my guy. Like, I'm a Calvin Ridley fan. I like Calvin Ridley the way I used to like Josh Gordon even though he never played. You know, I think Calvin Ridley has all the potential in the world to be great. And I think last year it was all about washing off that rust, getting acclimated to the game. Also, it should be noted that Calvin Ridley led the league in pass interference, meaning people committed the most pass interferences against Calvin Ridley, not he committed the most pass interferences. So he's out here balling so hard that people are interfering with him to make sure he can't catch the ball. That to me says if you take away those PIs, Calvin Ridley has a stud-like year. So I believe that more than likely that he's going to stick with Jacksonville because he didn't have the breakout season that was expected of him this past year. I can't imagine a 29-year-old wide receiver who didn't have the greatest season of his career is going to require a lot of money to be re-signed. He has a rapport with Jacksonville. He started something in Jacksonville. I believe he's going to want to see it through. With that being said, if he does not choose to do that, the team I would like to see him go to is Buffalo. Honestly, I would like to see him go to New England because that's my favorite team, and I love Calvin Ridley. I think he's a baller. I think he's a wide receiver who goes out there and he just does his job. And could you imagine Mike Evans and Calvin Ridley on either side of each other? That's just havoc on defenses. But we'll see how that goes. But I would say the team that makes the most sense, being logical, not just being a homer, I think that Kansas City Chiefs make a lot of sense for a guy like Calvin Ridley. Next on the list, we have Austin Eckler. So Austin Eckler had probably the most disappointing season of any running back this past season. Gets injured week 1, high ankle sprain, out for over 6 weeks, comes back, lackluster performances, really doesn't play well. But they didn't really play to his strengths. Austin Eckler, he's a pass catching running back. Therefore, he's not the north-south guy. He's going to run up the middle here and there, but he's not the north-south guy. He needs the ball in open field, and that boy's going to do work if he gets that. If Austin Eckler could be 100%, then there's a multitude of teams that could utilize him. Las Vegas, if they lose Josh Jacobs, the Giants, if they lose Saquon Barkley. What else we have? Cleveland. Cleveland's a great team if they were to lose, if Nick Chubb doesn't return. You can have Isaiah Ford as that 1-2 punch. Austin Eckler could come in as the Kareem Hunt of the situation. So I like those aspects, but it all depends on what the Chargers are going to do. The Chargers under Jim Harbaugh presumably are going to be north-south downhill running, 3 downs, pounding the ball. That's not Eckler's game, so I can't really see that working out too well for him there. But I do like Austin Eckler returning to the Chargers with the rapport he has with that team. But I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. I like him in a team like Denver. You got Javonte Williams down the middle, Austin Eckler outside. Vegas, once again, could use him as well as the Giants. Hollywood Brown. Played for Arizona last year. Doesn't really work out. Hollywood Brown has a big problem with it being injury prone, but when healthy, he's a dog. He's a speedster. And what team in the NFL likes fast wide receivers? Also Kansas City. I think that could be a great little matchup for Kansas City, with Travis Kelce, and then you have Rashid Rice with the short dumps, and Marquise Brown taking the top off the defense. All that could really work out well together. Also, I like him going to Atlanta. You have Drake London as that big body wide receiver, and then you have Kyle Pitts, middle of the field, athletic tight end / receiver, and Marquise Brown as your deep threat. Awesome combination. Either any one of those options would work out well. Gabe Davis. What can I say about Gabe Davis? He's a one-trick pony. He's a deep threat. So teams like Kansas City, going back to Buffalo where they know how to utilize him. If Chicago Bills go with Caleb Williams, it would be nice for him to have a guy who can go deep at any moment. So there's a few teams that work out well. Next on the list, I have Jacoby Brissett. So the thing I like about Jacoby Brissett is he's a locker room guy and he's a leader. But he's also a backup who can come in and dish out the ball and win games. That's what you need. You need a guy who can come in, lead a team, and win games if the number one guy is out. And there are 3 teams that need that more than anybody. Number one team that needs that is the New York Jets. They're going with Aaron Rodgers. After an Achilles tear, yeah, he did everything he could do to get ready and to be ready, and maybe he will be ready. But if he goes down, you cannot rely on the bums you had in your backfield. Zach Wilson is not the solution, and neither is Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle should not play football, period. Not even in the UFL, not even in Canada. Homeboy should not be playing ball, period. So you got to bring in a guy. And it's always good to bring in a vet and a guy who can lead a locker room, and that is Jacoby Brissett. I also like him returning to New England. New England drafted him. He knows the system, and if they're going to draft a rookie, nobody is better obviously that's an exaggeration, but there's nobody better than Brissett as a backup to bring in to help lead a young man to find himself and to become the leader he needs to become under the tutelage of Jacoby Brissett. Hands down, probably the best decision New England can make this year, outside of drafting the right quarterback, which I'll get into later. And then also Minnesota. Who knows who Minnesota is going to bring in? Are they going to draft a quarterback? Something else I want to talk about later on. Are they going to sign somebody? Are they going to trade for somebody? Who knows? But no matter what you do, you need a solid backup. Bringing Josh Dobbs in late made sense for 2 weeks. Damian Hall or whatever Hall clearly is not the guy. You need the guy. Or at least you need the guy behind the guy. So whatever guy you do get, you have someone to fall back on, and that's Jacoby Brissett. Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz did a lot in Houston this past season. I like the way it looked. I think he meshed well with this team, and it would be a mistake to get rid of a tight end or to at least let go of a tight end that performed as well as Dalton Schultz did with a rookie quarterback. Unless you have some plans on signing someone just as good or better, trading for someone good or better, I think it only makes sense for Houston to retain Dalton Schultz. Hunter Henry, is New England going to re-sign him? I kind of hope so. He's a really good red zone threat. He's a good blocker. But there are plenty of teams that could utilize a guy like Hunter Henry. Baltimore being one of them. You have, why can't I say his name right now? Mark Andrews, who is kind of injury prone. You want someone who can come in, you got Isaiah Likely, but if you got Hunter Henry as well, it's a really good combination. Kansas City, I feel like that's a good fit as well, but I really wouldn't mind seeing him come back to New England. Allen Robinson. Yeah, you're going to say, Allen Robinson. Where was Allen Robinson last year? Yeah, he was on the Steelers and he didn't really do much, but he's still Allen Robinson, and if he were to sign to a team, I think a team that could use some depth, not a number 1, not a number 2, not even number 3, but just some depth, Los Angeles Chargers. Odell Beckham Jr., I feel like Odell Beckham Jr. is going to try and sign with a contender. He signed with Baltimore. Could he go back? Yes. Should he go back? Absolutely. Will he go back? Who knows? But a team like Detroit, who was there, they had that opportunity and it just slipped through their fingers. Could they use a playmaker like Odell Beckham? Absolutely. But Baltimore makes the most sense. I could see him trying to sign with Kansas City, thinking that they can three-peat. Will that happen? I don't know. Cincinnati, get some maturity in the locker room. I feel like Odell Beckham has found some maturity and some wisdom, so that could be a good fit if they lose T. Higgins. So there's a lot of opportunities. Even Buffalo makes a lot of sense. This is a guy I think is a sleeper at the tight end position, is Noah Fant. I feel like people forgot what Noah Fant was when he was in Detroit. Noah Fant was a top 10 tight end when he was Detroit, Denver. He was a dog. He was so good. He gets traded to Seattle, who has far too many weapons, and he disappears. He fades away into obscurity, having pop-up games here and there where he scores a touchdown. But I think he needs to go to a team that knows how to utilize their tight ends. And for me, that's New England. Like, Noah Fant in New England, to me, makes the most sense. He's a very good tight end who can block, catch the ball, he can make plays. I think it's probably the most sensible thing. Noah Fant to New England, 100%. Darnell Mooney. Another guy, number 2-ish wide receiver who always seems to fall short, whether it's quarterback play, off-season, injury, whatever. Darnell Mooney has not been given his best opportunity to succeed. His first season, homeboy was open all the time and was being overthrown. This past season was getting overshadowed by DJ Moore. I think there are 2 or 3 teams that Darnell Mooney could go on to and blow the top off of it. First team, Kansas City. Obviously, there's some teams that I'll say multiple players for, and that doesn't mean I want all these players to go to these teams. I'm just talking about what teams players best fit in. And Darnell Mooney, probably the best fit for him would be Kansas City. A guy like Patrick Mahomes who knows how to get the best out of his players. Even if it takes 10 games to get there, Patrick Mahomes is going to get you there. And I think Darnell Mooney could use that in spades. Another team is the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers is going to be back, Garrett Wilson can't do it all. Allen Lazard is whatever. Like, Darnell Mooney could come in there and become a number 2 right away under a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I would like to say the Giants, but they don't really have a quarterback. Atlanta would be nice. New Orleans would be great. Chris Olave, Darnell Mooney with Derek Carr throwing the ball. Derek Carr's kind of losing a step here in a little bit, but I still think with a quarterback like Derek Carr, Darnell Mooney could succeed. And the last option would be Carolina. If they got Mike Evans or T. Higgins and you pair him up with Darnell Mooney, I think that would be an excellent combination. I think that he could bring a lot to the table. He could help that offense with his speed, downfield, and the downfield advantage that he brings. Next on the list, you got Ryan Tannehill. At this point, Ryan Tannehill is starting to feel like a Ryan Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston. Like, yeah, you might get him for a season as a starting quarterback, where he then falls into that backup role and then goes on to another team. There's only maybe 1 or 2 teams that I think he could go into right now and start. First would be the Las Vegas Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's gone for 2 games. Are the Raiders going to keep him? They're going to release him? Who knows? But I think Tannehill, he has more athleticism. I think he could come in and at least do as good of a job. I don't think Ryan Tannehill can go anywhere and do better, but as good maybe. Minnesota, once again, it's tough to say that that's a good mix, but he could probably come in and not mess it up too bad if you're looking to bring up a rookie. I know I said Kirk Cousins in Pittsburgh, but once again, Ryan Tannehill, he kind of plays, rough, rugged football, can make plays with his legs. In Pittsburgh, that could be a really good combination. Personally, Ryan Tannehill to me has officially reached backup status. And if you have Ryan Tannehill as your backup, you are in a solid, solid place. So let's see how that goes. Next, you have Tyler Boyd. If I'm Tyler Boyd, I'm trying to stay in Cincinnati with all my might. I don't want to go nowhere. But, you could use a team like Arizona could use him. Once again, New Orleans, maybe the Giants, teams that are just looking for weapons. Tyler Boyd could kind of fill that void. But if you're you're signing Tyler Boyd, you're really just looking for depth. Finally is Curtis Samuel. And Curtis Samuel, I think Washington would make a huge mistake by letting Curtis Samuel go. You're about to draft a rookie a rookie quarterback. Curtis Samuel is a veteran who is last year was the best wide receiver in Washington. Let's be honest with ourselves. He was the number one guy there. So I don't know why you would let someone like him go. And I think Curtis Samuel fits anywhere. He's ketchup. He goes good on everything. I don't really like ketchup. But you all know what I'm saying. Curtis Samuel is the ketchup of wide receivers. If you put him on a team, he will succeed. All right. Now, I want to get into some rookie quarterbacks coming into the NFL, okay? Actually, you know what? With the time I have left, I'm going to skip out on rookie quarterbacks. I'm going to hit that next week. What I really want to talk about is a what-if scenario. I have this one what-if scenario that came to me yesterday that blew my own mind, right? Some of you may think this is crazy. Some of you may think I'm a genius. It's up to you to decide. But the Chicago Bears have the 9th pick. They have the number 1. They're not giving that up, but they got the number 9. The Chargers have the number 5. Jim Harbaugh believes that J.J. McCarthy is the best quarterback in this draft, right? He believes that in his mind. If he doesn't, then he's just trying to lie to the world. Here's my what-if scenario. What if Jim Harbaugh offers the Chicago Bears Justin Herbert, right, for the number 9 overall pick and next year's first-round pick for that number 9, right? So now, Chicago Bears, who have not been able to get the quarterback right in ever, get Justin Herbert, top 10 quarterback in the NFL, if not top 5, with DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, with one of the top 10, top 15 defenses in the league. With the number 1 overall pick, Chicago Bears draft Marvin Harrison Jr. So now you got Justin Herbert, Marvin Harrison Jr., DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, quality defense, decent run game. What? That's victory. That's victory right there. You done brought in a high caliber, finely tuned dog of a wide receiver. A quarterback with a stable of great wide receivers. Then you take Justin Fields and you trade him to Atlanta, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Tennessee, the Giants, the Seahawks, whoever will have him for, say, a 2, maybe a 3, and a player, whatever the case may be. Let's just say we'll call it a 2. So now you got a second-round pick to build up that offensive line. And then you move over back to the Chargers, who now, with the number 5 pick, you draft Malik Neighbors. Or, if Malik Neighbors is gone, Boom, you move on to the next wide receiver. With that number 5 pick, you draft the best available wide receiver, or you draft that incredible tight end, Brock Bowers. You draft him. Then, with that number 9 pick, you draft J.J. McCarthy. You believe J.J. McCarthy is the best quarterback in this draft. At the very least, you think he's top 5 in the draft. That's a lot. You already know how to coach him. You already know what he's capable of. You bring him in. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Mike Williams. Maybe Austin Eckler. Now you bring in Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors. If he can't succeed with those weapons in front of him, you were wrong. But with that, you still have your next year's first-round draft pick plus Chicago's next year's first-round draft pick, and you could try again. But if you're right and J.J. McCarthy is the best quarterback in this year's draft, the next C.J. Stroud, and he starts balling out, and you got a rookie, a high-level rookie tight end or rookie wide receiver, and you make the playoffs and you win a game or two, that's great decision-making. I don't know about y'all, but to me, that trade sounds incredible. When I thought about this trade the other day, it got me so amped to do this episode today, to do my first episode. I think that would be one of the greatest moves for both teams to really just shake it up and give each team what it needs without having given up too much. Chargers aren't giving up their early pick. They're just getting another one. Chicago's not giving up that number 1 for 2 seasons in a row. They're getting the best wide receiver in the draft. Win, win, win. Another concept that kind of came into my mind is Mac Jones. Obviously, the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback. I'm going to talk about it more next week, but just to throw it out there, give you a little flavor of what's going to happen, I'm hoping it's Jaden Daniels. I believe Jaden Daniels is actually the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. He's the most accurate. He is extremely mobile. He is a playmaker, and he's got an arm. He got a cannon for an arm. I think that the Patriots, if they can draft Jaden Daniels, that's the move to make no matter what. I would take Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams, hands down. So, Mac Jones does not work on the New England Patriots. He is a game manager. And there are 2 teams in the NFL that need a game manager. And you don't have to ask for a lot for Mac Jones. You could trade Mac Jones for a 4. I'd be happy trading Mac Jones for a 4 and maybe a player. Defense, offense, offensive line, whatever the case may be, a 4th and a player. Trade Mac Jones to Minnesota or to Atlanta. Personally, Seattle works as well. Minnesota, Seattle, or Atlanta. Trade him there to a 4. Mac Jones will go there and succeed. Believe you me, 100%. You send Mac Jones to Minnesota, Seattle, or Atlanta, and he is going to have a winning record. Mac Jones delivers the ball. But in New England, he had no one to deliver the ball to. And that relationship is broken. You cannot continue to hold on to Mac Jones. You've got to move on from that situation. So you draft Jaden Daniels, you sign Jacoby Brissett, you trade Mac Jones to, like I said, Minnesota, Atlanta, or Seattle. And he will go there and he will be successful. That's why Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones the year he drafted Trey Lance. He did not want Trey Lance. He wanted Mac Jones because he wanted a guy who will sit in the pocket and deliver the ball like Brock Purdy. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Brock Purdy is definitely better than Mac Jones. But had Mac Jones been drafted number 2 overall to San Fran, we're talking about Mac Jones completely differently right now. We're talking about Mac Jones similarly to how we're talking about the Brock Purdys and the C.J. Strouds of the NFL right now. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Mac Jones got a bad he got put in a bad situation with a coach who didn't respect him, in a situation that he was not built for, and that was not built for him. That was a terrible situation with a coach who should not have been a GM. I love Bill Belichick to death, and I hate the fact that he's not the coach in New England, and I think it's a slap in the face that he's not a coach anywhere in the NFL. But the problem is, Bill Belichick might be the worst offensive GM the NFL, I don't want to say the NFL has ever seen, but he's one of the worst. He can't draft offensive weapons to save his life. The man is a defensive mind. And let me also say this. I feel like Bill Belichick should go to a team and be the defensive coordinator. Like, I understand you're the greatest coach of all time. You are the most winning. You're one of the most winningest coach. You've won the most Super Bowls. You are a G, and becoming a defensive coordinator might be a little beneath you. But I think it would speak wonders to the NFL if you took a couple bites of some humble pie and took a job as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. You hire Bill Belichick as a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and I promise you your defense turns around. A team like Chicago, a team like the Chargers, Miami, oh my God. You bring in Bill Belichick to be a defensive coordinator. If he was willing to, obviously we don't think that Bill Belichick would take a defensive coordinator job. But if he did take a defensive coordinator job, man, that would be an incredible defense. But with that being said, I think that trade with the Chargers and the Chicago Bears, putting Justin Herbert in Chicago, J.J. McCarthy in the Chargers, Marvin Harrison to Chicago, would be a league shaker. Oh, my God. Chicago wins the division for years to come with Justin Herbert and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Cole Kmet, and DJ Moore might only have a few left in him, but you just keep drafting rookie receivers. I mean, that's a dynasty, man. That's incredible. And then J.J. McCarthy, if he's better than the rest, with all those weapons, I can't see that not working out as well. And Mac Jones to Minnesota. Mac Jones to Minnesota is probably my favorite pairing. Atlanta would be my second favorite pairing. Seattle would be my third. But any one of those would be incredible. So I can't wait to see it happen. So with that being said, next week I want to hit you guys with some defensive free agents. I want to talk about the first round of the draft, maybe give you some of my opinions on what should go. I'm not going to do any trades in the draft. I'm going to do straight up in order and who I think people should select with their draft picks. I want to talk about the QBs. I was hoping to do that today, but I kind of got carried away with free agents, and I had to talk about this Chargers-Chicago trade that I foresee, or at least that I would love to see. So I really want to get into those things next week. I'm super excited to be back. I missed this. If you guys check me out on my YouTube channel, Gym Bag Entertainment, I'm gonna be putting my show on a podcast on Spotify and whatever other streaming podcast sites I can get it on. I am looking to load up the content, tailor the tape. The MMA Combat Sports Show is coming back. Me and Mike Johnson are ready to deliver the combat sports news that you got from us every week. We will be back. We are coming back. I promise you, every single week, new content. We are excited at Gym Bag Entertainment, and we have other content. We're going to bring straight to the point from the Digital Dungeon, which will be an interview show where we'll interview local businesses and, people involved in things going on in the city and throughout, whatever, music, sports, everything. Anything and anybody we can interview in the Digital Dungeon, playing video games and talking about their lives. It's gonna be a fun show. I'm gonna be hosting it. And we're gonna try to get a new guest every week. We got exciting things coming up, so please please like, share, and subscribe to Gym Bag Entertainment. Give us a review on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast. But that's all I have for you today. I'll see you next week. I'll see you later on this week on Tail of the Tape. And until then, have a great night.